making history with a little spit, polish, and bullshit. I've been a captain now for many years, and that position has brought with it a lot of rewards and fringe benefits. It's not hard to figure why a number of captains develop an oversized ego, some to the point of a god complex. I mean, on the water, we are the law. So when we order something done, we immediately see the fruits of our labor. It is a lofty position with great responsibility, but by choosing to accept that responsibility, a riverman can gain considerable respect and attain a satisfaction that sets him well above a mundane existence of mediocrity. It's not only the power of influence that gets our adrenaline flowing either. Having the ability and talent to do some of the things we do with millions of dollars worth of equipment and thousands of tons of barges full of product while in close quarter situations is not something you can teach any old drunk monkey to do. Hell, most folks can't even parallel park a car. So I am thrilled when I accomplish that feat with a 90-foot boat and a football field worth of barges between two ships while fighting the elements of wind and current. I literally love what I do for a living, and most of my days are more fun than Six Flags over freaking Georgia. There are many times that I will say, "That was fun, let's back up and do it again." Usually my poor old tired deckhand will respond, "Let's don't say we did." Yes, sir, I would say that I have the greatest job on earth, and having all the raw power of the mighty motor vessel Ron Hull at my fingertips is a sheer joy instead of work for me. Little did I know that accepting the captain position of the MV Ron Hull would bring with it an honor that will forever be a major highlight of my career and was bestowed on me by none other than the namesake of the vessel that I had become master of. I first met Ron Hull during our maiden voyage of the boat that held his name. When we made it to Houston, Ron came out to visit with us to get a good look at the 90-foot long, 32-foot wide, 47-foot high, 2,400 horsepower, double-screw vessel that was his pride and joy. Unbeknownst to him, my crew and I had made a vow to be the best-looking, most admired vessel when the christening took place, and we were micromanaging everything and going above and beyond the call of duty with every aspect of anything to do with our brand new home. I have always believed in immediate close attention to minor details and continuous improvements. I have learned that if you take care of the little things, the big things have a way of taking care of themselves. I had become obsessed with our new boat and had passed that obsession along to the guys that make up my crew. We were CDO when it came to the boat. We were on a mission, dedicated, determined, and dependable. Now, for those of you that have no clue what CDO is, let me explain. It is OCD with the letters of the acronym put into proper alphabetical order like someone with that particular compulsion would actually do. To be truly OCD, you have to write it CDO. That was us during the time period between the launch of the MV Ron Hull up until the christening. 7 years after the christening, we are still extremely particular when it comes to maintaining the boat that we live most of our lives on. During that critical period, the crew and I had spent a lot of time, as well as a good deal of our own hard-earned dollars, for extra items and special projects in order to add to the ambience and character of the boat. The MV Ron Hull began to look and feel like a home instead of a work boat where we made our living. We had painted, cleaned, repainted, and recleaned everything aboard the vessel. We went from running a tight ship to showboating with absolutely no recognition of the demarcation line between the two. If it mattered, we did it. If it didn't matter, we did it anyway. We felt and acted like we were the flagship of the fleet, expecting a visit from the king himself. And I guess you could say that the king did come visit, the man for whom the vessel had been named. Ron Hull is probably one of the coolest people you will ever meet. He's a big, tall drink of water, with a laid-back, peaceful disposition. He is a member of upper management with our company, what my grandpa would call a big wheel. But he has an exceptional talent for making people feel quite comfortable and relaxed in his presence. Ron and I have many things in common, but imagine our surprise when we found out that we also share a birthday. I mean, what are the chances of a captain being selected for a boat, only to find out that the boat's namesake and I were both born on October 19? I quickly discovered I had met a friend when I thought I was meeting a boss. I didn't realize it at the time that the friend I had met would soon become like a brother to me. A towboat brother with a bond as strong, if not stronger, than any blood relative. Ron Hull's talents are not limited to his sway with people or his shrewd ability to attract, influence, and obtain big towboat industry deals and contracts. He is also a genuine college football hero. Ron played offensive end under the legendary coach Chuck Fairbanks at the University of Oklahoma. On January 1, 1972, Ron was on the field at Tulane University in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl, battling it out for the national championship. Captain Norm Antrainer, who helped me in the capacity of co-writing this story and will soon make an appearance in this tale as a character, was one of the 84,031 fans in the stands that day watching Ron Hull and number 3 ranked Oklahoma team beat number 5 ranked Auburn and the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Pat Sullivan by a score of 40-22. Shortly after meeting Ron Hull for the first time, I received a call from him. You can always tell when you have made a connection and developed a deep personal relationship with someone of Ron's caliber because they feel comfortable enough with you to call you after business hours while enjoying a drink or two. Ron was having a few drinks, enjoying a nice cigar, and riding his golf cart through the woods on his property when an unconventional idea struck him. He had called me to let me in on what he was thinking. Ron had been extremely impressed with all the extra attention and work my crew and I had put into his namesake, the MV Ron Hull. He told me that evening that he had been trying to think of a way to thank us for taking such pride with the spit shining and polishing of a vessel that he could be proud of. An incredible idea concerning the upcoming christening had come to him while riding the trails through the woods on his property, and he had immediately stopped his golf cart to call me. He was so excited about his idea, and he had my full, undivided attention. I was all ears for anything that would add to the legacy of the boat and our christening. "Captain Joe, would you do me the honor of christening the Ron Hull at the ceremony?" he asked. There was silence on my end of the phone as I considered trying to find a Q-tip to clean out my ears. Did I hear him right? I was speechless, to say the least, as a cold chill ran down my spine. Ron patiently awaited my response, and when I finally spoke, I stammered. You mean you want me to break the champagne on the bow and bless the boat at the christening?" Ron laughed as the realization of what he had asked me began to sink in. Then he bubbled out, "Man, wouldn't it be so cool to do something totally unexpected and unprecedented that no one has ever done before as a special way of saying thank you on such a momentous occasion? You and I, my brother, will go down in history and will forever have a bond between us." For the briefest of moments the thought crossed my mind to question this great man. The christening of a vessel is a time-honored tradition reserved for the bloodline of the namesake. Are you sure you want to pass that off to someone other than a family member? Was what was running through my mind. However, I did not pose that question or articulate any concern or reservations. Ron Hull is a well-rounded individual that knows exactly what he wants from life and how to obtain it. He is also passionate about the important things in life like family and the great company we both work for. He is not one to go off half-cocked, fueled by emotion, straying any old way the wind blows over such important matters, and it would have been a sacrilege and an insult for me to question his reasoning ability. I didn't know what to say. What could I say? With a tear in my eye and a lump in my throat, I told him I would consider it a great honor and a pleasure to christen the MV Ron Hull. When I tell you my heart was running over, I mean it filled my eyes and ran down my cheeks as well. To have made that much of an impact on another human's life is a joy that I will never be able to fully explain. The next day, Ron's request was all that I thought of, and the conversation the previous night was surreal. Did I dream it all up? No, I knew it wasn't a dream, but that nagging voice of self-doubt and negativity kept trying to creep in and convince me things like that don't happen to me. Maybe Ron had imbibed one too many before he called me and wouldn't remember our conversation, or had rethought the situation with the illumination of the morning sun. I knew all of what I was thinking was bullshit, but I couldn't wrap my mind around something like that. I was awed. One thing that voice was telling me was true. Things like that don't happen to people like me, because they don't happen to anyone ever when it comes to the blessing of a boat. Everyone is familiar with christenings and what they stand for. Well, maybe not everyone. Who could forget seeing the Queen of England standing on a platform, swinging a bottle of champagne onto the bow of the Queen Elizabeth II? With a loud crash of the bottle, bubbly splashing everywhere, horns blowing, flags flying, banners waving, and crowds cheering, the mighty ship slid down the ways with the blessing of a queen. Boat and ship christenings involve many superstitions intended to invite good luck for the vessel and crew. One such superstition is the breaking of a sacrificial bottle of champagne over the bow as the ship is named aloud and launched. That time-honored tradition is an ordered event of a blessing, a superstition of good luck, and a traditional saying, "God bless this ship and all who may serve on her." This story has all of the traditions and superstitions you will find in honoring any new vessel, in this case a towboat named the MV Ron Hull, but with one small twist. A little twist we can now call a new tradition, a riverman superstition meant only for towboaters. A towboat is a special type of boat, which originated strictly for pushing, not pulling barges, and can only be found working on the rivers and canals, as they are not designed for the rough seas past the demarcation line. The term towboat has caused a bit of confusion for many people that are not savvy to the river life. Some folks have a hard time understanding why a towboat is called a towboat, since it pushes barges as opposed to towing in the traditional sense, or pulling the barges. Barges lashed together are known collectively as a tow, thus the term towboat. The main difference between a tugboat and a towboat is that a tugboat has a pointed bow, while a towboat or pushboat has a squared off bow which can face up flat against the barges of a tow. The main purpose of a towboat is for pushing, while a tugboat's primary objective is to maneuver ships. A tug has better maneuverability for pulling in any direction via a hawser. There are many more differences between the two vessel types and the origin of the names that make for great reading when you have an hour or two to scour the internet. The towboat MV Ron Hull is a steel-hulled pushboat equipped with strong diesel engines and crewed with hardened rivermen that face all the conditions Mother Nature in her menopausal rage can throw at them, including high water, low water, fog, ice, rain, fierce storms, and hurricanes. Those conditions come around every year, and the MV Ron Hull shoves right through them, underway and making waves. The MV Ron Hull is a tough workboat that plows through the waters of countless rivers and canals. It is not a fancy yacht, passenger vessel, warship, or majestic ocean liner like the QE2. But as the captain and master of the vessel, I treat her like she is. That mindset and the love of the boat had captured the attention of Ron Hull. Sure enough, Ron Hull called me back the next evening to discuss some of the finer details of the christening, which silenced that nagging demon in my head that was trying to convince me I wasn't good enough to christen the boat, or that I had heard the man wrong, or that he would reconsider. It was like my inner voice said, "Imagine that," and shut up for a while to ponder all the aspects of the situation before attacking my brain again. With my mind satisfied that the christening would take place as Ron Hull had envisioned it, I redoubled my efforts to make sure the vessel was in pristine condition. Then I was faced with another stumbling block. News of Ron Hull's plans to have the captain do the honors of smashing the champagne bottle was passed around the office, and Captain Norm Antrainer, the Director of Strategic Asset Planning, which simply means he builds boats and barges, brought up an interesting question that had both me and Ron Hull taking a pause for the cause. With all the traditions and superstitions that are such a vital part of the blessing of a boat in mind, Norm questioned if having someone outside of the bloodline christening the vessel might be considered bad luck that could possibly cause peril to the ship and doom to the crew. No one wanted to risk causing bad luck to befall the crew of such a magnificent vessel. Still, Ron Hull was adamant in his wishes and asked Captain Norm if there was any way around the bad luck. Captain Norm promised Ron that he would research it and find out if such a thing was possible. Captain Norm is a delightful fellow with a wickedly awesome sense of humor. Coupled with the fact that screenwriting is his hobby, Norm could probably tell you a tale of tragedy of biblical proportions and have you rolling on the floor laughing through all the death and destruction. With him so serious about a bad omen, I guess we should have known something was up. Captain Norm did in fact do his research to see if anyone had ever done what Ron Hull had in mind, but he had no intentions on making any major change in the proceedings. He was simply looking for an opportunity to pull a fast one on an unsuspecting captain and namesake. While studying up on christenings and ship lore, Captain Norm happened upon an old phrase that we are all familiar with: "Don't spit into the wind." That phrase is a common euphemism in America for "don't piss in the wind," which is a British nautical phrase that literally means don't do something self-defeating that can come back to haunt you in a bad way. Considering what happened at the christening, I am awfully glad we were in America and not England, or this story might have really turned out to be on the pissy side. With a big smile and all of the confidence of a used car salesman, Captain Norm broke the good news to Ron Hull that indeed he had found a solution to the problem. By mixing a little fact with fiction, Captain Norm had set into motion a plan that would surprise everyone at the ceremony. To ensure that no one spoiled his plan, Captain Norm informed Ron that no one could know about what was to transpire at the christening beforehand. He told him it was much like the custom of a bride and groom not seeing each other the day before the wedding. If it was discussed with anyone, then the threat of bad luck would still be alive, so for the sake of the ship, complete and total secrecy was a must. Ron was ecstatic when he called to tell me that the christening of the MV Ron Hull could go as he had planned it. He did tell me that Norm had found a talisman that would ward off evil during the ceremony, but he would not elaborate on what ritual had to be performed. He told me that only he and Captain Norm could know about it, or that it would not work. I was thrilled to find out what Ron Hull wanted for that special day would be realized without risking the vessel or crew, so I didn't question it any further. I was excited to have such a major part in something so grand. The day of the christening, September 27th, 2007, finally arrived, and our company had planned a huge, unheard of, 5-boat christening to be held in Houston, Texas. It was no ordinary vessel christening. It was to be an identical sister boat christening of 5 90-foot long, 32-foot wide, 2,400 horsepower, brand new canal class twin screw towboats, all painted the same colors, flying American flags and company banners. All the boats were lined up side by side, identical in every way other than the extras my crew and I had put into the MV Ron Hull. To all who were gathered that day, it was a beautiful sight to behold, and the celebration was magical in too many ways to describe with mere words. The MV Ron Hull was the first boat of the 5 to be christened. The master of ceremonies was in place, and the event began right on time. There were dignitaries, hundreds of invited guests from all over the country, reporters from the Houston Post newspaper, and a TV station or two, as well as photographers from various trade magazines. This was a huge event of epic proportions, yet Ripley's had somehow missed out on the grand, record-breaking affair that actually made history twice on the same day. First, the christening of 5 boats at once was a world record. Secondly, someone other than an immediate family member of the namesake was christening one of the vessels. Ron and I were standing proudly on the uppermost deck of the boat, suited up in our best attire. I had even got a haircut, something I never do for the occasion. I was holding a magnificently decorated champagne bottle that had been done up with red, white, and blue streamers. The stage was set, and Ron and I were both enjoying the limelight. Speeches were made, blessings were given, and finally it was time to break the bottle of good luck across the bow. All of a sudden, Ron grabbed my arm, the one holding the bottle, coughed up a loogie from deep down in his throat, and dramatically spat squarely onto the decorated bottle with a perfect bullseye. I thought, what the hell? As the entire crowd went dead silent. I looked up at Ron with a quizzical look, then down at the bottle, and back up again at Ron, who was grinning like a mule eating sawbriars. He absolutely glowed with pride, and I could feel the happiness that was radiating from him like the energy of a nuclear reactor. I don't think he even realized that his actions had stunned everyone into silence. No one knew what to expect next, including me. I stood there a moment longer in the silence with my arm cocked, prepared to give the bottle a swing, when I heard laughter from amongst the crowd coming from a man that is not tall and statured, but who is a Goliath when it comes to a practical joke. Captain Norm. In that moment I realized that Ron and I had been played like a fiddle, although I don't think Ron noticed or even cared at that moment if he did notice. I shrugged my shoulders and proclaimed, "God bless this ship and all who may serve on her." With a mighty swing, the bottle landed on the bow of the boat with a great crash, sending champagne and spit flying through the air everywhere, on the boat, on me and Ron, and on the front row of dignitaries. There was another moment of silence, as it seemed our audience was trying to comprehend what they had witnessed. The silence was short-lived, however, and was soon broken by a mighty cheer, the horn sounding, and the ship's bell ringing. Ron still had his big grin, and I stood there with a look of disbelief. Under my breath, I muttered a question to Ron. "Did you actually spit on the bottle?" He replied, "Yeah, man, wasn't it cool?" I laughed, knowing full well that Captain Norm Antrainer was directly responsible for what had happened. After the blessing ceremonies of all 5 boats, it was time to mix and mingle with all the distinguished guests. The first person I sought out for conversation was Captain Norm. I had to know how he had pulled off such an incredible trick on Ron Hull. When I found him amongst the crowd, he started laughing once again at the sight of me, gave me a big old hug, and through tears of joy that welled up in his eyes, he said, "I can't believe he did that." It took quite a spell for Captain Norm to get over his laughter so that he could tell me the Paul Harvey of the story, but finally I was enlightened as the festivities continued around us. Research had led Norm to find the nautical phrase about spitting into the wind. Norm had told Ron that by passing the bottle off to another person that was not a bloodline descendant of the family ceremoniously represented doing something that could possibly come back to haunt Ron, the vessel, or the crew in a bad way. It was the true and literal meaning of the phrase spitting into the wind that Captain Norm had twisted the context of in order to fit into his genius plan. He had further informed Ron that spitting downwind into the face of danger was an effective tool of seamen of yesteryear to ward off evil and bad luck. He also convinced Ron that spitting, particularly on the bottle at christenings, had been done many times in the past centuries by kings and noblemen as rewards to the heroes at sea that had defended and saved the crown. Ron Hull had bought the entire story, hook, line, and sinker. With exacting precision, he had christened the bottle before the bottle christened the vessel. In truth, as far as we know from research, I am still the only person in history, outside of the namesake's bloodline, to actually do the honors. And what an honor it was.
It is a great honor to have a boat named after me, especially being from McCook, Nebraska. The chances of this happening have to be between few and none, having been raised in the sticks out in western Nebraska. Prior to the christening, I asked Joe Kent, the captain of the boat, to make sure it was well taken care of, and for him to know that I am aware of how difficult his job is, and that it would honor me for him to break the bottle. During the years thereafter, we have become brothers and warriors against our competition. It's so much fun watching Joe Cephas excel in his career, knowing he will be forever connected to me and my family and me to his. Ron W. Hall II.
As you probably know, anytime something special happens in your life that turns ordinary events into extraordinary memories, there's always that certain element that becomes jealous and wants to try to rain on the parade. In the days following the christening, it got back to me that some folks were asking, who does that captain think he is, showing up at the christening in a three-piece suit, when all other employees were required to be dressed in uniforms? At first, it was my intention to defend myself. You know, I was asked by the namesake of the vessel to christen it, and I wanted Ron Hull to know I was honored by his request and that I took it very seriously. Secondly, although I was dressed nicely, I was not wearing a three-piece suit, so I was taken aback by the ignorance of the troublemakers that were trying to bring me down. Thirdly, the ceremony was held during my off days, so as a guest, not an employee, I had the right to wear whatever I damn well pleased. After some advice from my good friend and co-worker John Cox, my official statement, however, was, I showed up to the christening wearing a three-piece suit to piss everybody off, so go piss up a rope. You are in fact pissing in the wind if you're trying to piss in my cornflakes. That's what those folks wanted to hear anyway, so I gave them the fodder for their gossip for a short while. As you can see, I gained a lot of knowledge from Captain Norm's research and my subsequent parley with John Cox. The important people who truly matter know where my heart is and why I did the things I did on that day. You can't piss on a party that Ron Hull has already spit on. I'm sure those negative naysayers will be too busy in their self-righteous attempts to criticize others that they will never have time to realize such pure, unadulterated delight as what I experienced that day. I am sure they wouldn't be too surprised to learn that I also plan on doing the best job that I am capable of, with the hopes that somewhere down the river my dedication will lead me to be considered for the naming of a vessel myself. Sure, it is a hope and a dream that I may never accomplish, but along the way I am building my own legacy, and my name will be mentioned on the deck long after I'm dead and gone, whether my name graces the side of a boat or not. Besides, I would have never imagined I would be asked to christen the MV Ron Hull. You never know what might be right around the bend for you if you give everything you have, plus some more. I will tell you this. If there is ever a vessel named the MV Captain Joe Kent, you can bet your ass that the captain of the vessel will break the bottle after I spit on it, and the little trick that Captain Norm and Trainer played on Ron Hull will in fact become a riverman tradition after all. With a little spit, polish, and bullshit, you too might end up making history one day. So do everything you can to earn your salt. Long live the king, Ron Hull.